We're very pleased to be joined now on the program by Steve Sviggum. He's a former longtime Republican state representative who was first elected way back in 1979. Hard to imagine.
I didn't have gray hair then, Marty.
Well, neither. And I had
you
more.
had hair.
I had more, yeah. He served as Speaker of the House from 1999 to 2007. He currently serves on the University of Minnesota's Board of Regents and is the Communications Director for the Senate Republican Caucus. Welcome to the program, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So, new job.
Andy, yes.
How's it going?
Well, I love it.
Okay.
It's not without its trials and its challenges, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the people, and honestly, I did miss the place of the Capitol. I even missed the confrontation at times.
Are you okay? Well, you're in charge in a different way, but tell me about the kind of differences, because you're in charge of a lot.
You're with the powdered wigs over there now. You're not the Rocket's house, right?
As Communications Director and Director of Constituent Services, I have to provide services to the Senate, senators, and for their constituents. But the hardest thing is to make sure that when I am in meetings of discussion, of policy discussion, that I sit back and I watch my tongue, my questions, only listen, only ask questions when answered or when asked.
It's hard.
It used to be I used to lead those discussions.
Right.
Now I patiently have to sit back and be quiet. And that's something that I'm learning.
That cannot be easy. No, because you've been trained most of your life to speak out on things.
That is correct, yeah. But now I'm not the decision maker, Marty, and I have to make sure that I'm always continually reminding myself, I'm not the decision maker, I'm there to support the decision makers.
It's humbling, in a way, isn't it?
At times, humbling, and it's also, it's still exciting though. I do miss governing. I do miss this place, and our legislature is a wonderful, wonderful spot. Problems, yes. People with differences, yes. Sometimes confrontation rather than balancing compromises, but it does work.
Oh, it represented 30 years of your life.
That's correct. And then I was 3.5 years as a commissioner too.
So a long time you've been involved.
Well, just a quick little tangent here, because your other job, there has been some people who think there's a conflict of interest with your Board of Regents position. Is that all cleared over? Is it?
Well, I don't think it's cleared over yet. The Board of Regents has basically empowered an outside attorney to make a recommendation in regards to management of the conflict, if there is any. I don't think there is any, because I'm not a decision maker here. In fact, I think I mentioned that maybe a minute ago. I'm not a decision maker. And from the university side, there are certain policies that you have to live within to be a university regent, and I'm well within those policies. So I don't think there is a conflict, either perceived or real. But if there is one, in life, when you make choices, it's not always black and white choices, Andy. Sometimes there's a continuum, and you have to be able to manage those choices.
Have you made your case before the other regents? Do you feel confident?
I've spoken to the other regents at the regent meeting. I've tried to make my case. Will I say that the regents all necessarily agree with me? No, that's not true.
Okay. Well, if you look at the Senate press directory, you'll see lots of new faces. The former Senate rules set out specific parameters for who to admit, whereas the new rules seem much more broad. And I think your predecessor, Michael Broadcorb, had a major hand in revising them and expanding access to new players, bloggers, political folks. How have the rules worked out so far, and where are you on that?
Well, I think, first of all, it should be more broad. I think we need to be open to all different types of media, not just, social media, as you know, in the last 10 years has exploded. Right. It's instantaneous. It's now.
Sometimes that's good and bad politics.
Yes, it has caused some problems too, by the way. But I actually think that, I would not be one to restrict. I would be one to more open up the process. I've always felt that the more open, the more transparent you are. Even if you make a mistake. I mean, people understand mistakes, but the openness and transparency is important, and it's important to get that message out to citizens.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of my pet peeves is, Andy knows I'm going to ask you about this. At the end of every session, the governor and leadership go and quarantine themselves in a corner. Now, you did it with all different kinds of folks. Well, Jesse Ventura was the governor when you were here. And no we don't as a public have any insight into that. We kind of wait as a press corps out for you guys to come out and tell us what the heck was said or happened. Is that just the way that has to be, or do you think the public should know more about what goes on?
I think the public should know more. Marty, what you probably don't know about me is that during that time, I always argued either to my staff and or to other governors or legislative leaders that it should be open. And I had this feeling, now it may not be right, and some would even call it as an arrogant feeling, but I thought the more people know about every issue and every consequence of every issue, the more they would agree with the position I took. Now, I know that sounds to some arrogant, but it also is openness, and it's also a confidence that, you know, if everybody knew everything,
Yeah.
I think they would agree more with the positions I took as a leader rather than less.
Right, less secrecy, less dark corners. Yeah, people start to worry and we get paranoid when that stuff going on, even if there's nothing happening. They start to worry and lose faith in the machinations of government.
Now, so we still have to admit that things are a lot more open and a lot better now than they were, say, 50, 60 years ago.
Oh, sure, right.
And we will never go back to those times, nor should we. So we're making gentle progress in the right direction.
I hope so. I hear people criticize, like Representative Paymar and others, that, and even some from your side of the aisle, Steve Smith and you know, Senator Limmer, that maybe we're not open enough here at the Capitol.
I would tend to agree with that, and but the pendulum moves, and it's moving towards transparency.
Yeah, that
and
arc
opening.
is
It's maybe not as fast as you would like.
Oh, it's not as
or
fast as I would like.
But it is moving. I think you would have to say it is moving.
Yeah, well, some days I wonder, I question it, but I hope that it will continue in that direction.
So there's been a lot going on. It's been a busy, like fast and furious start to the session. So give me your party's top 3 priorities.
Top 3 priorities, easy. First of all, I start out, I tell them that whatever the first question is, the first answer is $6 billion. I don't care what your question is, Marty. First answer is the first answer is $6 billion.
Right, okay.
We've taken Minnesota from a $5 billion deficit to a $1 billion surplus. Now, tough decisions, yes, you know, tough management, but under any judgment, that's pretty good management to now today have a surplus. So we want to continue to improve upon that. We want to continue to make sure that Minnesota is managed well and that we don't go back into those deficits. Secondly, jobs. Anything to do with job enhancement, whether it be the lawsuit reform bills, which unfortunately Governor Dayton vetoed here a couple of days ago, or whether it be jobs, streamlining the permitting process, reducing statewide business property taxes to incent jobs. Anything to incent jobs is good in our book. And
spending money for bonding projects?
Well, there will be a bonding bill, but there certainly will be a bonding bill. I don't think that you're going to see the Senate spend quite as much as the governor did, because you also have to understand for every spending item, there's a consequence. And that consequence is placing more debt on your children and your grandchildren. So there's a balance to be brought there. The third thing that would be, if you ask for 3, would be the process of government redesign and reform. Now, I know that that's not necessarily a sexy item, but it's really, really important to redesign.
What is that? Yeah, give some specifics.
Redesign government not only means to make government more efficient, to make the government run more efficiently and with a better result, but it means getting the right goods and services and programs to the right people. Now, sometimes government through its bureaucracy fails in doing that. But redesign reform is about efficiency and getting the right services to the right people.
Well, let me go back to the $1 billion surplus. Now, that's not counting the K-12 education shifts that happen and sort of the kicking the can down the road. How much do we, what's the state financial, what's the guy's name? Tom Stinson.
Tom Stinson.
Dr. Doom. We call him up here. Every time he comes out, everybody gets scared because we know it's going to be bad.
State economist, yeah.
Right, state economist Tom Stinson. If you looked at it from his standpoint, what would he say? How are we doing as a state? Is that money we've kicked the can down the road, is that going to come out of this $1 billion surplus? Where are we at on that?
Well, I'm not as smart as Dr. Stinson.
Well, few of us are.
But in fact, Dr. Stinson did actually work with me or for me at one time when I was Commissioner of Management and Budget, my last month of 2010. And I know Dr. Stinson quite well, and I think what he would say is that Minnesota still needs to be very, very prudent. We're not out of the woods yet as far as taxing, as far as spending, as far as our budget, even though we've come a long ways from the deficit of $5 billion to the $1 billion surplus. We've come a long ways. We're not out of the woods yet. And I think he honestly would say that some of the changes, it's a good change, it's a good direction, but some of them were some shifts that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And I would guess that in the Senate Republican caucus, Marty, I think the first item to be addressed, if there's money available in the February forecast, will be the K-12 education shift.
Get that taken care of.
Yes.
Our state got its rating lowered at one point because of the government shutdown. Are we any closer to getting our AAA status back as a state?
Well, I think the management and budget will probably be going to the bond councils out in New York again later this spring.
To plead their case?
Yeah, but and they will plead their case. I did that one time over the phone. I didn't get to New York, but I did it over the phone. What they will try to do, I think, is plead the case that Minnesota now is back in a black.
Okay.
That we've made tough decisions, we've had good management, we now have a cash flow account of $350 million completely full, and we put back the budget reserve almost to the $653 million, which is supposed to be.
We got an email question for you here, and I'll quote directly, and pardon the lack of formality on this. Ask Sviggum a question about a short, fat kid who schooled him in one-on-one basketball game in Thief River Falls in the 90s.
There was more than one.
Do you know who this is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I do. But there was more than one of those. But that individual was a pretty good ball player.
Oh, I see.
I think he's underselling his talents.
Okay.
I enjoyed playing basketball a lot. And whether it be Fergus Falls or Waseca to Grand Rapids, I played a lot of ball. And there's a lot of those people out there that schooled me.
Now we want to have you come back because a couple of questions we didn't get to that hopefully we'll get to in the future. One being the idea of these constitutional amendments. That's really different from when you served during your tenure. We didn't see as many. And so
we didn't see as many. Part of that was, and I don't know how much time you have. Part of that
we're
was
out
the
of
reason.
it.
We're
Actually,
out of time. Okay,
got like
we'll get
30
into it
seconds.
next time.
okay, sorry.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back. It'd be nice to get to some of those questions, and as the session progresses, we'll know more.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd be glad to
Sviggum.
join you.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.